Arda, Ocal, and Jacob Wolf for ESPN ESPORTS. We are here at the Anaheim Convention Center. 2019 Blizzcon well underway. The keynote just ended, and let's unpack it all. It was a very interesting keynote. We had been talking before this that Blizzard really needed to hit a home run here in order to set the tone for the next couple of years. I think they definitely had a strong showing in this keynote, and they started it in very interesting fashion. We were wondering, Jacob, whether any of the protests would be addressed. They in fact were. It started even before the official keynote started. Blizzard President J. Allen Brack came on stage and talked about it. I took some notes on my phone here, by the way. That's why if you see me looking down, I'm just referencing because it was a whole hour, so I took a bunch of notes here. The quote is, "We didn't live up to the standards we set for ourselves. We failed in our purpose, and for that, I'm sorry, and I accept accountability." What did you make of his apology?
I was surprised that they did address it at all. You know, I think that traditionally Blizzard's been very reserved on this sort of front when it comes to public relations and the way they communicate about sort of things. You know, this has become an international incident for them across the entire world. There are many, many news outlets outside. I was just outside with the protesters covering sort of what they were doing, and there were many colleagues out there with me from big, reputable news organizations. So I don't think they had much of a choice, right? It's kind of been the elephant in the room for them the last couple of months. But during the entire time he was giving that apology, he didn't mention China or Hong Kong a single time. And it feels like it was necessary that they did it, but it felt like it wasn't enough. And I think that a lot of the community reaction online is more or less the same. You know, I think that they had people unsubscribing from World of Warcraft and some of their other games en masse, and so they had to do something, right? You can't just not address it. It was a big shadow that's looming. I mean, there are protests right outside security here today in Anaheim, so I think you had to address it. But, you know, I still don't think it's all the way there. I think they could have gone a little bit further.
Can you describe the scene outside for us?
Yeah, so outside right now, there's probably about 50 to 60 people that are holding up various different signs that say Free Hong Kong. They were chanting people over profits and various different things. There are people dressed as Soldier 76 and May with Hong Kong signatory on their helmets and things like that. And, you know, there's I saw various different news outlets, the Washington Post, Kotaku, NBC, us, we were out there. You know, it's definitely something that's really big, and it's right outside the security gate. So when, you know, if you're a normal attendee and you get your pass at the Sheraton that's across the street, and you come across, you have to walk through the protest to get there. And they're being pretty good about the pathway. There was a city manager out there earlier from the city of Anaheim. There are Anaheim police out there who are, you know, have cleared all of this. I talked to some of the organizers who said, we've been cleared by all the necessary officials. But it's a big deal. I think it's going to grow. You know, the later today at 2 p.m. they're supposed to have the American University students who were also banned for supporting Blitzchung. They are supposed to be there later today to be giving a speech. And I anticipate that to be a big deal.
The last thing I want to mention on this topic in particular is maybe the sentiment that was felt by a lot of people here that I have been talking with was actions speak louder than words. So though we got an apology of sorts from Blizzard President J. Allen Brack, the question still remains, what will happen in the future in the event situations like this occur, but also what will happen to the suspended players in the Hearthstone community that you mentioned?
Something he said, you know, we had the opportunity to unite the world is something he said in his opening speech and apologizing about this. I found that very interesting. You know, this is what's going on right now with Hong Kong and China. There's various different, you know, things going in the world right now that esports could be a part of, right? Esports is everywhere across the world, and so I think that there's politics and esports is something I expect to see overlap with because of esports being such a diverse and global thing. And I do think that it's really important that there's sort of a precedent here, and I don't know if what we got today was enough.
Let's talk about the game announcements. It was full of game announcements, including the ones that had been reported. A Slasher on ESPN reported Overwatch 2. That was officially announced. Let's start there. Very interesting that it seemed like it will be a new game. However, a lot of the modes, anything PvP related, will back translate to Overwatch 1. So new heroes, new maps, the new push mode, that will be available in the previous version. So I found that to be very interesting for those who already have Overwatch 1. They can look forward to playing those in the game that they already have. The other thing that was mentioned by Overwatch executive producer Jeff Kaplan is that the push mode will be played in Overwatch League when it is released. So Overwatch League will, at least in that mode, change in a major way.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing they didn't announce was free-to-play. I still think that that's a huge step. It sort of expands their horizons in the community, and I think that it's something that, at least for Overwatch 1, it makes total sense to just do it right now, right? I think that would have been a big win for them on that stage today, and they didn't announce that. So, I think that push is something that's new. You have to continually update your game to make it less stale. I think one of the biggest criticisms of competitive Overwatch is that it's stale, and so having push be a part of the Overwatch League, I think, will sort of help lighten it up a little bit. But I don't know. I mean, I think that they're dire to fix some things about Overwatch, and this is the way you do it, is with this update. But I don't necessarily think that, generally they should make it free to play, because that will just spike their player base immediately.
So they did say several new heroes. The word several was used there, so we're going to see many announced. Sojourn was part of the cinematic. Sojourn was mentioned on stage. There was no release date, though. We don't know exactly when the heroes or Overwatch 2 will be released to the public. But it's refreshing to hear that we're going to get those new heroes and the new mode. And it sounds like Overwatch 2 will have the exclusive PvE mode and the story mode, so that's what you can look forward to
as well. For Reinhardt and Tracer and Genji, there's a few of them in there that are also getting character model updates. So, and they actually look really good. I like the art of those.
And there's customizable. There's a customizable option there that they did announce in Overwatch 2. So that'll be very interesting to track. This was a keynote full of game announcements, like we said. Not many release dates, though. The only one that we did get was Hearthstone related. The upcoming Hearthstone pack, let me just get the full name. It's Dragon related. Descent of Dragons will drop on December 10th. I'm excited about it. I'm a big Hearthstone player. I enjoy it. What were some of the other announcements that you found very hype here?
I mean, you correctly predicted an auto battler of some form, which is going to be a part of Hearthstone, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And I think that's
Battlegrounds. It's called.
That is the next Battle Royale was everybody wanting to get into it, and you saw a bunch of developers, right? Like sort of people like H1Z1 were kind of first to this pie, and then you saw PUBG, and then you saw Fortnite, which is a AAA developer that really made it a big deal, and so. I think that everybody's trying to fight for the auto battler thing. You see Riot's success in TFT, and you want to be a part of that. So that's one that I think that it makes sense. It's natural. Diablo 4. The gameplay looked very similar to Diablo 3 in terms of what they showed and what we can expect. I'm hoping it's further than that. Last year, one of the biggest sort of mistakes I think they did was they didn't really listen to their Diablo community, and it just sounded like they were after money and sort of just milking the image of a mobile game that's still not released, to be fair. So I think that Diablo 4 is certainly something they've got to get right. Those were really the two things that stood out for me were the auto battler and Diablo 4.
I think the keynote starting with Diablo 4 was a big win there because it was something that was really
another
looming
elephant
over.
in the room for them.
Exactly.
Right?
So the fact that they started there, they said, here is your Diablo 4 announcement. The cinematics were terrific. That was an especially long cinematic as well. So you were really gripped into the whole storyline of everything there. And the reveal of Mother, the big bad in Diablo 4 was really good. A lot of strong female characters were announced throughout all titles, which was really cool. What else? I mean, the auto battler is interesting. I really wonder how it will do, because it's going to be a game mode within Hearthstone. It's not necessarily going to be its own standalone product.
Yeah.
So I wonder, with that setting, like having to download an existing product, I wonder if that's going to become as successful, say, as a TFT.
Yeah, I'm wondering, how many people that actually currently play Hearthstone right now will play that. And how many people do they get now to install Hearthstone because of this new mode, right? I think one of the big things that Blizzard has had trouble with is player retention. We've seen pretty good player retention with TFT and sort of the Riot paving the way. Blizzard's really great at making you buy a World of Warcraft expansion, play 2.5 weeks of it, and then you're done. You cancel your subscription. They're really good getting that $60 out of you and making you sort of dive into their world, but they're really bad at keeping you long term, and so that's the one thing that they've been trying to figure out. The auto battler genre seems to kind of hold steady in that regard because it is sort of addictive in a way, playing consecutively and getting better and seeing how you can improve. It's a really fun genre. I've played a lot of TFT and Underlords over the years, so I think that generally, I think the auto battle mode makes a lot of sense, but I don't know. It's interesting that it's a part of Hearthstone and not something new out of its own.
Well, speaking of expansions, of course, World of Warcraft announced Shadowlands. No Lich King. That's interesting. One thing that Blizzard is very good at is storytelling with their IP, and I think that World of Warcraft hit a home run with what they presented here. With the Lich King completely going away, always hearing that there must always be a Lich King, and now we don't have one, and Sylvanas being the one, furthering that narrative to be the one that destroys the Lich King, and now we got a whole new area, and we still have a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah.
I like the mystery surrounding this expansion, so I'm very much looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think that World of Warcraft expansions, I said this earlier this week when we were in studio, but I think they're getting a little dry, so you have to find new ways to make them sort of more thorough, right? The last couple of them for me haven't felt as exciting as the earlier titles, right? Like Wrath of the Lich King and Cataclysm and some of the others. Playing now like Battle of Azeroth and some of the others, I haven't had as much fun, and I think that again it's part of that player retention thing. So I think they've got to get a little bit better at storytelling within the game itself, but that sort of showed something that's worth hoping for, right?
So if you were to grade the keynote, what would you give it?
Ooh, it's a hard question.
I don't know if it's a home run, but it was definitely, in my opinion, as strong as it needed to be. I don't think it was the best keynote in history, but it definitely wasn't the worst. We definitely got announcements we wanted, and we got some surprises as well. So I would say B+.
I think I'm right at a B or a B-. I think that, they had a lot to deal with, from the protests, from Diablo and sort of what was hanging over them from last year and messing that up, to Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick this year saying we have record profits, but we're laying off more than 800 people. There was a lot coming into this weekend. I still think that exists here, clearly outside. There are a lot of people that wanted to see something, so there was a high hurdle bar to clear, and I think that they just barely made it over. I still don't know if it's enough to push back the criticism in a way that other developers have done with their game announcements. But I think we're at the point right now. I'd give it a B or a B-.
Let us know what you thought of the keynote. Also, give it a letter grade. How would you grade this year's keynote at the 2019 edition of BlizzCon? Let us know in the comments below. Subscribe and ring that bell so you get notified every single time videos like these drop. And we will be here all weekend giving you continued coverage on our Twitter at ESPN_esports and here, as well as our website at ESPN.com/esports.